Hey folks, how are you? So clearly we need a little more talent in the crowd to sit in the chairs. But if you guys want to come up a little bit, if you feel like you wanted to come up so that it feels a little more intimate. Let's have an intimate session. I guess that's the word to have. So thank you everyone. I'm delighted to do this panel. One of my most favorite topics of late has been talent in the travel industry. And one of the things that Skift, for those of you who don't know Skift, we are a news information company focused on the business of travel. And one of the topics that we are very keen on over the coming years is how does talent and what companies are looking from talent change in an age of AI. So which is the topic of the panel as well, which is how do you future-proof tomorrow's workforce? By the way, not a big fan of the word workforce or labor. Two of the things that if you ask any labor to call them labor is probably not the best way to call labor. Talent, I find, is a better word than just labor. So we have four great panelists on stage, and instead of me butchering their bios, Barbara, I'm going to ask you quickly to start, and then the rest of you, what do you do?
Thank you, Rafat. I'm Barbara Muckermann. I'm privileged to be the Group CEO of Kempinski, which is the oldest hospitality company in the world, born in 1862, and with a great presence in this part of the world and 20,000 talented employees around the world.
I'm Fabien, Fresnel. I'm the CEO of the Riyadh School of Tourism and Hospitality. Been in the kingdom since mid-January and here to set up the school and hopefully to fulfill the talent gap to achieve KSA 2030 and beyond vision.
I'm Natalia, Bayona. I serve the world as Executive Director of UN Tourism, but I was born in Colombia and really happy to be here today in a wonderful country that I love as well.
And you're the happiest this week because your event is over.
Correct. The General Assembly has ended, and now that we have a Secretary General-elect, I can breathe again with you and have fun.
Kai.
Thank you very much for having me. Kai Roemmelt, I'm the CEO of Udacity, which as of last year is part of Accenture. Udacity is a technology upskilling company. We have trained, since the inception of the company, about 30 million people worldwide. And now with Accenture, we've set out to become the largest corporate training provider in the world.
And this is all online primarily?
This is all online. With Accenture now, we're adding a couple of in-person elements as well.
Okay, thank you, Kai. So let's do the opening. So one of the things that I want to start with a big picture question around attractiveness of the sector. A question or a challenge that the sector has been dealing with for however many decades at this point. So sitting here in 2020, at the end of 25, coming into 26, we're hearing a bunch of conversations about it's becoming harder and harder for young people coming out of college to get their first jobs because AI is beginning to affect, or at least companies are preparing in advance of AI taking over. Why should they consider, Barbara, start with you, since you hire a lot of these people, why should they consider a career in travel and tourism today, and what is your pitch today? To you, if you're speaking to your friend's daughter, for instance.
Thank you very much, Rafat, for the question. Well, the global hospitality industry as a whole is evolving, but is as strong as it has ever been. And the biggest pitch that you can give is that, particularly if you think about the changes like AI that are happening, in reality, the only thing that computers will never be able to really eliminate is the human and emotional interaction. And this is what the whole of the hospitality industry is about. In fact, I think we will see that the work is going to become much easier for the new talent that's coming online, because thanks to AI, we can develop incredible back-end systems that make it easier through customer relationship management for them to understand better what the client wants. and really be able then to elevate what is the ultimate value of this industry. It is that emotional connection. So we hire first for emotional skills, and then we teach them the technical skills. It's pretty easy to tell to someone how to greet an international guest, how to wait at the table, but you cannot teach them that connectivity that really makes you understand that guest wants to be left alone at breakfast because she really had a cranky night and she doesn't want to be talked to right now. So that's how I would see it.
Fabien, obviously you're starting a school that will, a very ambitious plan of training millions of Saudis.
Well, I don't know for millions, but one thing for sure to what Barbara just said, maybe the hundreds of thousands. I think the answer to the attractiveness question, which is a recurring question, is multidimensional. First, as Barbara said, I think we've thought of hospitality often as technical skills. But as we all know, hospitality is not just, I mean, it's not an industry. Hospitality is a human condition. I will not, lecture on Marcel Mauss or Lévi-Strauss, but, it's part of our social being. So, and I think that's part of the answer and the equation is that we've seen hospitality, as we say in French, glou glou, miam miam, dodo, accommodation, feeding, entertaining. It's more than that, especially in today's world. People need emotional bound. They need to be reassured. They need to be, as you said, hosted. So I would put the technical skills, and that obviously has implications on the program, the duration, the use of technology as enablers. We should see technical skills as secondary. I'm not saying they're not important, but anything that is emotional agility, intelligence, simulations, role plays, as some companies say, we train for skills, we recruit for attitude. It's that attitude component, number one. I will be very fast. Number two, I think there's a responsibility of both educators and industry in, for example, the terminology. I was told, the young Saudis, they don't want to be waiters. Who wants to be a waiter? Now, what if you are a service ambassador? What if you are a guest experience maker? It makes a difference in terms of pride, in terms of taking possession of your job. So I think there's also, I did a hotel school 40 years ago, a work to be done on the terminology, which ultimately is the career path that you can foresee. And third, I think for us, hotel schools, we need to innovate. I haven't seen, sorry for my ex-colleagues and even for myself, since I'm here, there's been no innovation in hotel schools. The way we teach today, what we teach today is the same than what I was taught 40 years ago, and sometimes it's worse. So we also need to rethink in terms of duration, content, leveraging technology, putting the focus, and as we were discussing earlier, using those tools and the human interaction in a world of human disconnect.
So speaking of tech, why did you decide to sit on his board?
First of all, I love what Saudi is doing around the Vision 2030, and I love the ambition of the goals where Saudi is going. I think in order to fulfill that vision, talent is core. Like, you're not going to be able to fulfill this if you don't have the people that can do it. And I think that bringing technology skills and AI skills into the mix is also essential. Like, I spoke to a couple of university deans last week where I said to them, if any of you are training people today that don't know how to build an AI agent and that don't know how this works and how to apply AI in their context, you are failing those kids, you're failing those students, because this is going to be essential. And I think it's going to be essential as well here that we bring technology in. And I think it's what's interesting, because you mentioned this emotional connection. I think it's one very common misconception is that kind of AI is about the hard skills and not the soft skills. There's a lot of studies that have come out recently that essentially conclude that when it comes to soft skills, AI can also run laps around humans. One that I particularly thought was interesting was a study where they took psychotherapy patients and gave them 3 responses that were focused on empathy, not focused on an actual medical diagnosis, but focused on just the empathy around it. And one was from a common person on the street, one was from a psychotherapist, and one was from a large language model. And overwhelmingly, the people preferred the large language model response. But now is the part that gets interesting, is then they told the people which one was which. And they still chose the large language model response. So because there is a level of empathy and kindness and friendliness that AI can bring into the mix. But I think now combining that and connecting that with a human element and deciding, you know, when is it the human that needs to stand there and needs to physically be there and greet the guest and be there with the guest? And when is there a different form of interaction that actually fulfills that need?
You do obviously, as part of UN Tourism, you do a lot of education work, not at all levels. And so how are you thinking about, and how is the education that you're doing changing? And how much are you thinking about sort of incorporating AI literacy, I guess, if you will, which is what you said, as part of what you're doing now?
I love that question. I have to say that tourism is the most human economic sector. 50% is the top employer of youth, but 50% of youth working in tourism just have secondary skills. So if we want a serious economic sector, the basis is education. So we have, as you know pretty well, Rabat, we have a 360 model, starting from high schools, helping the governments, the ministries to include tourism as a subject in high schools. We created a bachelor's with the cooperation of the Swiss government. The first one related to international sustainability. But then, with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, we developed something that I feel is pioneer. That was 4 years ago. We created the first online education academy, powered, so we brought the best universities all around the globe, asking them for impact in that time. It was 1 year before COVID, so La Roche and those from the private sector, the PolyU, all the Latin Americans, of course the Swiss, the French, the Spanish, the British. So we brought all the content, and we have been managing, of course, to scale up the way people are educated. How? In that sense, of course, we have scholarship packages with them. The universities are giving us, as of today, we have given more than 50,000 applications to people all around the globe through the ministries. We have an AI tutor inside the online academy so that the journey is more personalized. But after 4 years, we saw that for management, this is a model that maybe can help us. But when it comes to vocational, if you have taxi drivers, if you have people that are 24/7 as part of the hotel, tourism, hospitality sector, maybe that was not the way, because they neither have a computer nor the time. So we created a new service last year that is AI-driven courses through WhatsApp. So we tested these with the taxi drivers, for example, in Colombia, for the executive council that we had in Cartagena. So we do alliances with the Taxi Drivers Association in this case. They have the curated databases that knows that things are feasible. So through WhatsApp, they receive a message, and then the journey with AI starts. So they just need 10 minutes per day. Everyone has 10 minutes. Everyone has a mobile. It doesn't matter if you're in a rural area or in a town. And after you finish the models, you get a certificate from UN Tourism plus the government that is helping you. And believe it or not, but in Colombia, the taxi drivers decided to print the certificate because for them it's an honor. They don't have the skills. And now after that, we are doing this with the government of Chile for the rural areas. With Indonesia, with the minister, we are doing so for all the diplomatic consulates, so that they know through AI skills and WhatsApp what are the things that they need to sell and promote about Indonesia abroad. So at the end of the day, AI is a tool that can help us to scale up the way we develop things, but by far, we need to mix and to get that balance between vocational and managerial so that we are aligned in that digital agenda and we give opportunities to everyone.
So clearly there's a, Barbara, you're hearing the stuff about AI having more empathy than humans, and I have a feeling that you're boiling inside hearing it. As somebody who operates luxury hotels, what will you allow AI to do for and with your employees, and what would you not allow them to do?
So I think there's huge opportunities with AIs. There's also challenges that I'm not sure the industry is completely ready to have. The reality, for example, is that we've already lost, let me say, any kind of luxury ownership over the language of luxury and the way we communicate with customers. So today, the average hospitality website will have about 30% of the traffic will already be bots. Yes. So I have now a website that a creative director has spent hours designing the shades of gray of the picture, and here's a bot trying to find efficient information. So this kind of mismatch will oblige luxury companies to develop two different languages. The emotional language, which is the one with which you create the desire of the customer, you work with the destination, of which your talent becomes the first ambassador. And then you need to have AI managing everything else. So that's where the collaboration and the strength of the ecosystem comes.
What do you think the hospitality schools that you hire out of, what are they not teaching?
So I think, again, learning is an ecosystem that goes beyond the hospitality schools, even if I think the hospitality school is absolutely pivotal. Very often we think about learning like, I need to do 3 years of university, or I need to do a postgraduate. But the reality is that, particularly in a world that's moving as fast as it is, you never stop learning. So I would say that tourism learning really starts at high school. Because if the kids that come out don't come with a minimum of English proficiency, then they get to his school and they don't even understand the course. So this is where governments and public and private need to work together, in which primary education needs to work a lot on the basic skills of hospitality, of which language, being able to communicate, is number one. Then number two, then they can go to more technical education, and I think that in this case, the hotel schools do an absolutely amazing job today, but as you see, it's never completed until they land in a company like Kempinski or similar others, and they really learn on the ground. Because, again, you need to meet the enemy, as sometimes we say, until you meet the guest, and you manage to fulfill everything that you've been teaching them, the learning is not finished for that part.
From your perspective, what are the mistakes you're trying to avoid?
That would be a long discussion. No, I think as usual, to Kai's point, I think technology should not replace, but should complement. And that's, you know, when MOOCs appeared, we say, oh, education is over, face-to-face is over, right. Everything is going to be online. See what happened. So I feel a bit the same, and again, I'm not a guru, and I'm not, but that hopefully whether AI or any sort of tech will complement, and when it comes to hospitality, I mean, hotels and resorts and experience, is that technology will not replace hospitality, but will amplify the time that we have with the guest relation. And as you rightly said, Barbara, when it comes to English, for example, and that's very true for Saudi Arabia, you know, AI and those tech tools can help us enhance the job preparedness. And to your point, also AI and those simulations that, though the school is not up and running, we've been working on with a couple of companies. You can have a lot of simulations, role plays, encountering the good, the bad, the ugly customers to enhance the job preparedness. Nothing will replace the face-to-face interaction with the guests, but you can, as a school, better prepare the kids for when they enter the job industry. So again, less on the technicalities. If you put the fork, you know, right instead of left or vice versa, I mean, today in 2025, no one's going to complain. If you're rude with the customers, everyone's going to complain. And to your first, your first question, I think here, especially for Saudi Arabia, and that I think is the most important panel that we're having, investing in the workforce, in, as you said, the talent. I will not say capital, but education is a national good.
Right.
Not only for the hotel and resort industry. So investing in the youth, whether face-to-face, hybrid, fully online, upskilling, reskilling, is absolutely critical to get the return on investment first, to get that repeat business, because there's tremendous competition elsewhere. And again, technology, if it helps amplifying the relation with the customers, save sometimes on check-in, check-out, etc., everybody will be better off in the end. And of course, that needs to be grasped by the education institutions, hotel schools, you name them. And to finally Barbara's point, I think if we start, with, as you said, lower, Saudi Arabia included, English, hospitality, being part of the future of a country, if you onboard the kids early on, then you're better off, selling a career, an industry, an ecosystem overall.
And are we still in an age of AI where instant translation is about to happen? It already is happening. The new iPhone, what are they called? The iPods, not the iPod, AirPods, thank you, that are now doing simultaneous live translation. So I'm just wondering, in terms of one of the assumptions of countries coming into the tourism ecosystem, Saudi being one, many other countries, is that you have to know English. Do you think that will become less and less important as sort of AI and translation takes over?
Can I take that?
Yes, yes.
One thing is to understand what you're saying. Another thing is connecting with you as a human. If an airport is just translating the functionality of what you're trying to communicate to me, I'm serving you in a functional way. If I understand your language, I can serve you in an emotional way because I really understand what you need. That's where I think the limitation of the airport comes in.
And when you do hotels in a country, you think about staff not just learning English, but you may look at the guests that are coming in their first language and sort of hire.
I think that opens up a larger challenge, which I really hope that the schools and the ecosystem can help us, which is the cultural diversity. Right now, with travel having more and more different markets traveling around the world, you need to also understand that these kids come out of school, they have lived most of their country in their own country, they have one cultural framework, and the schools and the system needs to help them to understand how do you interact at the right level with people that are coming from a different culture and have different expectation of interaction. That is, I think, one of the biggest challenges of the more interconnected hospitality that we're seeing today.
Interesting. Kai, one of the big challenges now with AI coming in and all the new tech coming in is reskilling of people in the travel industry. How much are companies receptive to, as you're speaking to a lot of companies, reskilling their employees, and what are some of the challenges that you've seen on adoption, for instance? Because when I hear about, online course, I'm thinking, oh my God, I have to sit in front of a computer for another 5 hours, as if I don't have enough screen time in my life.
Yeah. I think, first of all, this is not tourism and hospitality industry specific.
Right.
IBM said about 2 years ago, they said they estimated the average half-life of a skill is about 2.5 years today. And that number is becoming less. So every industry has to look at how do I consistently reskill. And I think we all know that the concept of you go to university, you learn a set of skills that's kind of defined at that point of time, and you carry them through the rest of your career, that's over. I think what's important, and this is where education comes in, that you have more flexible models of how you teach. And you have continuous degrees. One of the things we've done at Udacity is that we've recently gotten all of our courses accredited. So you can get university credit now for any certificate, any nano degree that you do with us. And over time,
they can become degrees. And I think that's something where you need that flexibility. And you started the conversation with the kind of talent shortage in hospitality. And again, I think maybe with the outside look on the industry, there's a global nursing challenge. Teachers in the United States, half of all teachers quit the profession in the first 5 years. Which leads to a massive teacher shortage. If you go through all these industries, they all have shortages of people.
Right.
What I see in tourism is, because there's so many entry-level jobs, is this industry actually gets a first look at so many people. So all you need to do is you need to pick the talent and then train them up, which again, this is not unique to this industry, but actually you have an advantage position because you see so much talent before anyone else does.
What are the challenges, any of you can address this, are seeing in terms of retention? One of the things that happened in COVID, a lot of people left the travel industry because travel industry was shut for a while, particularly in this part, I don't know if in Saudi, but in general in Asia, it was shut for a long time. And so in terms of retention, how are you thinking through sort of how do we build retention strategies as we bring people into the sector, but then also retain them as well?
Yeah, I have 2 points. The first one is about innovation and the role of the academia. When you talk about innovation, it's not only about creating something, it's about the entrepreneurial mindset that you need to have. So always in the business schools, there's an accelerator, an incubator, there's an innovation-driven and entrepreneurial-driven mindset that needs to be here as well in tourism. Of course, when you go to the top schools, all of them have that part, and we work with all of them. We work with the Innovation Hub of Les Roches or with the Innovation Lab in PolyU, etc. That's one part. I don't know if you know Rabat, and if you know, the public knows, but only 2% of the whole unicorns or the whole top tech companies are represented in tourism. Mm-hmm. There we need to push that agenda, because of course it's not only about retaining people to become employees. That's correct, of course, because you have big hotels and big brands behind, but it's a balance, because the generations of today, if you talk to Generation Z, they don't want to have the same path that I had as a millennial. So that's one point. Second point about retention. We are working with the governments on investments and the creation of new incentives connected to talent. Because when you talk to the private sector, and Barbara maybe can complement what I'm saying, part of the fears of creating a new hotel in an emerging destination is about talent, because they say, okay, it's perfect, I will create whatever hotel, whatever resort, whatever ecosystem you want, but at the end, if we don't have the talent that is correct for the more than 100 careers that we are impacting in our investments, it will be impossible to retain them, because the salaries will be much higher in retail. If they are not well trained, of course, you need to import the talent, to import the manufacturing goods, to import the gastronomy, and that's not the model that we want. But it's a checks and balance and a win-win, so the government needs to innovate as well on the way they promote investments, on the way they create new incentives when it comes to talent, so that they can assure, and they, the president of the country or the minister of tourism says, or the minister of economy says, okay, come and invest here, and I assure you that from now, when you made the decision until the 5 years when we open the hotel or the amusement park or whatever you wanna launch, at the end, I can assure you that the talent is ready. That's why the importance of Fabien and the hospitality school to be aligned on the way the kingdom is moving faster, but at the end that we are assuring that we have the quality of the people.
One of the challenges, and Barbara, luxury hospitality maybe gets a little bit of bad rap, if you will, on when they open up in an island destination, for example, they'll import all the talent. Is that a fair assessment? and how should hotel companies be thinking about it?
So I think that the first thing we need to focus is when you talk about retention, which is the perimeter of retention. The way we see retention is not retention inside the brand, but is retention inside the industry.
Right.
And this is something where I think the private public sector should collaborate more. Because if we retain a great head of front desk in the industry and he or she doesn't go and work in retail, we have actually gotten a point for the industry. So it's not a question whether it works for Four Seasons, Mandarin, or for Kempinski. It's important that we retain this talent inside the hospitality bubble. And this is where also the development of new destinations come in. It is the reality of life that if you enter a new destination that is just approaching tourism, doesn't have the skills, you will need to bring a very large number of international experts. Where I think the key differentiator is what you leave behind. Because the programs that we are running are typically that you're taking the international assignment on a 3-month basis, and then you have locals that are actually trained and shadow the international assignment that then leaves and goes to its next opening. So we call this the flying teams. And that's a great way to do it because yes, you have international talent that comes in, but they leave a training on the ground and they leave the skills for the locals to then do it. But it only works if the new destination works as an ecosystem, because only if one hotel just does it, the problem that we typically face, which is typically where the bad rap comes in, is that, okay, Kempinski is the best hotel on the island, and everybody's trying to hire out of Kempinski.
Interesting.
And then you start getting that dynamic, which is not a healthy dynamic.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that when we're talking about competition between different sectors, finance, tech, and other sectors that can pay more, is there anything that the industry can do about the pay itself? Like beyond a certain point, I guess it cannot ever match the salaries of the tech sector, for instance. It's just not humanly possible. Developer working at Kempinski will not in any way ever earn the same as at Google, for instance.
Rafat, there's no other career that will allow you to see the world and discover all the beautiful cultures of the world. You know, honestly, finance can't do that. You know, software can't do that. And that's why in hospitality, we need to learn and to sell our skills better.
Fabien, what's your sense of sort of as you're starting talking to the students of their aspirations on, for instance, salaries?
So it's not, this is a key question, by the way. This is not proper to Saudi. This is international. When I was with Summer Education, we had campuses, South Africa, Europe, many destinations. So attractiveness, first question, the usual suspect. Attracting, motivating, retaining. So Barbara, I agree with you because we are convinced this is a great industry. For a young kid, it's not obvious, and that will be very complicated for Saudi as, you know, the next 10, 20, 30 years, they will ramp up. There will be lots of cross-sector mobility, moving from hospitality to retail to aviation, transportation. If you ask me, I didn't get paid well, and that's why I left the industry after 19 years, because it took me 19 years from commis to become a director of operations, you know. So I think there's, sorry, Barbara, I want to be the bad cop. I think there's a responsibility. It's, you know, it's an ecosystem between the educators and the industry to pay better. And today's world is, you know, there's lots of fragility. And if you know, a bit interested in ecology or science, you know, those species who remain are the ones who are robust. So to be KPI-driven, financial performance-driven is good. But, you know, there will be lots of fragility on the long term. So pay well, change the wording, provide those kids with career pathway where they can see 1 year, 2 years. I was talking to young Saudis, they were promoted 3 times in a year.
Sorry, what?
3 times promoted from one position to another. 3 promotions in a year. I'm not saying this should be the norm, but you need to bring some perspective, you know. So it's not about finance, technology, it's, I think, perspective. 5 years, I can guarantee you that if you do X, Y, Z, proper training, pass those milestones, you can become a GM in 10 years. Of course, you have to abide by X, Y, Z. and that was not the case at my time, and even in Saudi, to the kids I'm speaking to, they don't see that up front. So again, I think it's a shared responsibility, you know, to attract them to that ecosystem, to provide them with good pay, promotion, career perspective, so that they say, no, I'm not going to work for, I don't know, Hermès or Vuitton or Piaget, because I know that I have a future in this industry. It's not just like, you know, most in the US, a job, summer job, you know. You can build a career, but you need to see that you can build a career, and not just to wait for guests to, you know, fill the form and say, oh, John was very good during my stay. Sorry.
Kai, we only have about 2.5 minutes left. What are the new types of jobs or roles you're seeing in your tech sector that we should, in the travel industry, be looking out for, is probably coming to travel, or some version of it is coming to travel? Like, when 3 years ago, when ChatGPT launched, prompt engineer was a thing, but we don't hear about it that much anymore because the way you prompt is becoming easier and easier and better. What are some of the new things that you're seeing in terms of the new types of roles coming in?
Well, I think that if you look in the AI space, the two big topics right now are obviously AI agents. And what's the difference between a large language model and an AI agent? An AI agent is it's a process that's set on top of a large language model. So I think for any industry, and I think hospitality is exactly the same, if you understand your processes really well, to be able to define those systems that can make decisions on your behalf, and that's really the difference. An agent can make decisions for you, whereas a large language model is more conversational. If I'm in a hotel and I have to figure out things where I need to look at what is the availability of my staff, who's on service today, what's the impact of the weather, so I need to get a weather report, and putting all that information together and preparing that. So I think roles around automating certain back of the house procedures, I think that will be key. I think that will drive a lot of efficiencies. The other topic that we're seeing a lot and that's coming up more now is small language models. So a large language model is a model, we all know ChatGPT, Grok and the others, that are pulling vast amounts of information and can be targeted. What a small language model does, it sits on a set of proprietary or non-proprietary data. So this can be data that's specific to Kempinski, that's maybe your training manuals, maybe your internal information. So what you do with that is, obviously you have no hallucination, you can switch that off. Right. And you can drive conclusions from your proprietary data that you have in your institution. So I think those things are going to come, they're going to drive value, they're also going to drive the value creation potential of those roles, and thus can also drive for attractive career paths in the industry.
Quick answer. How many years left before we see robots in hotels, like actual robots running around in hotels?
Already happening.
Already happening?
In Dubai, it's already happening.
As in, like, that can do tasks, not just
cappuccino.
Yeah, that's just a robot arm, but like the humanoid robots, that bunch of stuff, we're beginning to see some videos on social media, etc. Do you care?
No.
No, I think as you said, it's happening, but again, it doesn't mean it will replace the human interaction. I mean, he's a robot shivering, you know? I haven't seen, maybe it's going to happen, you know? Yeah. But I think that's key. If robots are here to clean the room, to do chat, I mean, you know, robotics is going to obviously add a layer to AI, but I don't see that as a threat. If that happens, hospitality is somehow dead. Where's the soul, the heart,
the heart.
You know? I don't know, for me, it's a big question mark.
Let's leave it there, the soul and the heart. Okay, thank you, folks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.